the early 2000s is where we get to see a lot of the games having to be very good in their recent years. Unlike the 2010s games, various games that like Need for Speed and Hot Wheels have a fair share of the good and the bad. I did the history about Need for Speed in the past. How it went from the rise to the fall and the dark in the mediocre. Like the golden age happens to be the black box era where Need for Speed Underground 2 and Most Wanted were the top pins or the top pin canes of the golden age of Need for Speed, and are still around to this very day. Then I did a history about Maxis and also dived into the history of the SimCity and the Sims franchise in the history of Maxis, and how Maxis has made the greatest games in their history, from the awesome to the mediocre, and the stupid, and the horrible disasters, which led to Maxis getting closed down in Emeryville. What crossing some, a lot of people just want to see what other history of these video games would have to be, but we need to talk about how could I refuse to not do a history. We're going to do a history of Diner Dash. Now, I touched on it during the history of Play First, but this is going to be an improved version of Diner Dash, and I feel like Diner Dash deserves a history of its own. Diner Dash in context is a time management casual game that is aimed for casual audiences and time management gaming audiences. Diner Dash was born in 2003, and it was part of Play First's best big breakaway hits of all time. And it was a cult phenomenon. Diner Dash also has spawned numerous sequels. From 2006, early 2006, late 2006, late 2007, early 2010, and then the first free-to-play Diner Dash, and the latest Diner Dash installment in 2019, Diner Dash Adventures. Now let's talk about the history of every single of the Diner Dash installments, all the sweeter. Diner Dash starts with the introduction of Flo, a hard worker at a big stock market company in Dinertown. She's tired of doing all the work and feeling unfulfilled. So Flo quits her job, wishing she could work someplace else. She spots down a run-down old diner, which she buys. She has to make enough money to fix up the diner. Later, after earning more revenue and finance, she opens a new restaurant called Flo's Tiki Palace. She opened another new diner called Go with the Flo Fine Seafood Dining. When finished at the seafood diner, she opens a dazzling new restaurant called Chez Flo's. After establishing many restaurants, an Indian goddess grants Flo a brand new forum and allows her to work at an Indian restaurant located above Dinertown. After proving her worth, Flo went out in her own separate way and is ready to help another hard worker at the company establish his own diner, repeating the cycle. Now, the gameplay involves seating customers and guiding Flo around the restaurant to serve customers. If enough money is earned after each level, the player progresses to the next. As the game progresses, Flo updates the restaurant, and she begins and builds 3 further restaurants, which provide new settings. The gameplay centers around catering to customers to gather as much money as possible. Flo can be moved around the restaurant to complete tasks. As customers arrive in the restaurant, the player must drag and drop them into a table where they sit down and read menus. Then the player must guide Flo to the table to take their order, which must be taken to service hatch. After the chef has prepared the meal, Flo must deliver the food. When the customers are finished eating, they must be given a check, which at the point, the customers leave a tip and their dishes on the table, departing the restaurant, and the dishes must be cleared before the next set of customers can use that table. Each successful action earns the player points. Performing the same action multiple times in a row earns the player a chain bonus, which is broken once a different action is performed. So yeah, it's very important to do a chain bonus, or else you won't be able to get the amount of points from gold and expert scores. However, all you have to do is just serve as many customers as you can before they get upset and ditch and leave. Each customer type can be patient, impatient, or moderately patient. Let's look at the customer types in Diner Dash 1. Now, Diner Dash 1 has came out with your favorites and the underrated customers. Here are the customers. The young lady. They would be introduced in level 1, stage 1. A young lady who has moderate patience, and she orders and eats at a moderate speed and considered the restaurant regular, and she's a moderate tipper. The food critic. Introduced in Flo's Diner level 1 in level 6. She's impatient and slow to order, but eats at a moderate speed. She tips, not by money, but by a star. And she will give you a star if she leaves happy. But be careful though, because if she leaves unhappy, this might cost you a lot of money. The kindly senior. The kindly senior is slow to order and eat, and doesn't tip very well, but he's very patient. The businesswoman. Introduced in Flo's Tiki Palace of level 6. She is very impatient. She's the most impatient customer in the entire game. She's fast to order and eat, and she's an excellent tipper. But she doesn't have a long lunch break though, so she quickly gets upset if you keep her waiting. We get the college kids, also known as the college students. A little younger than the young ladies. The college kids are impatient in line, but at the table they are slow to order and eat and lingers while at the table. And we got the Mr. Hotshot. The Hotshots would be in their 30s and 40s age, and is the coolest customer in the game. He's very patient in line, but once he's seated, he becomes impatient once seated. Upgrades were introduced in the first game. We have the drink station, podium, and a snack station. An endless shift there's a stereo, a performer, an oven, and running shoes. The drink station, all you have to do is just serve a drink. If it lights up, just bring a drink to the customers while ordering for a mood boost. A podium. All you have to do is just stand at the podium to chat with customers in line to make them happier. And a snack station. When customers request a snack, you must bring them to them quickly. It'll give you more points. But be careful though, because if you neglect a snack request, the customers will get upset. That's no fun, because that means part of their heart will be gone if you neglect a snack request. So yeah. So that's the only thing we need to be careful of. Take my word for that. During the end of Diner Dash 2003, when we get to the Indian restaurant, Flo became a goddess, and she'll be carrying 4 things at a time since she became a goddess. That's the only thing we see. Honestly, I remember my mother playing that game when I was young, and I literally couldn't believe that I also played Diner Dash as well. Although I do really suck at that game though, but once I get some practice, I'll get the hang of it. Diner Dash Classic has spawned remakes. We'll get to the remakes in a moment. Right now, we need to talk about the other releases of Diner Dash. Now let's talk about the reception. Diner Dash has been mentioned in the New York Times, USA Today, and CNN in a variety of casual game studies, including Nicole Larzell's analysis of player emotions at the 2005 Game Developers Conference. Game Magazine gave it a favorable review, calling it remarkably flexible. Diner Dash is also the reason why various people are working at certain restaurants. The Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences nominated Diner Dash for a Computer Downloadable Game of the Year at the 8th Annual Interactive Achievement Awards. PlayFirst was pleased that Diner Dash 1 became a cult phenomenon, that they spawned a sequel. Yes, a sequel to Diner Dash, called Diner Dash 2 Restaurant Rescue. This would be the second installment in the popular game series Diner Dash, preceded by the first game. Now let's talk about the story. The story takes place in Dinertown, as usual. Flo, a successful waitress that has 5 restaurants of her own, has just seen on the news that Mr. Big, a greedy landlord, wants to destroy 4 restaurants that belongs to Darla, Tony, Margarita, and Toshiro, respectively, so that she can own his mega multiplex food plaza. Flo runs down to help each of her friends and arrives just in time to stop Mr. Big and earn a chance to make enough money to pay him back. Now let's talk about the new customer types. And let's talk about the new customer types and new features in the second installment. And we already know about the gameplay, so no need for that. no need for that. Let's talk about the new features and customers that have been introduced. For starters, we still have your basic returning favorites. 3 customers: the young ladies, the business women, and the seniors. Young ladies would be available from the start. Business women would be introduced at Darla's Sidewalk Cafe, a level 1 to 8, and the seniors on level 4 to 2. But however, the content has changed dramatically. The college kids and the hotshots were completely eliminated from existence, replaced with new customers that everybody might be familiar with. We know Diner Dash 2 brings back few original customers and new customers. They, like Flow, are graphically upgraded and have remained so until a 5th installment will be introduced. Now let's talk about the new customers. We got the families, composed of a mom, dad, son, and a baby son. The family requires the most special attention, and there are 2 tips about the family group. We already know they come for a free per party, but there's another thing we need to know. For number 1, the baby will always cry if he's not sitting in a high chair. The family doesn't request a high chair, so it's up to you to bring one to them. And once the baby is sitting in a high chair, he will only cry if the family has been left too long on, and the family will get upset waiting for service. So they need special attention, or else. So they get noisy if they get unhappy. But they don't mind the noise. Speaking of noise, this is what we got. Noise disturbance. Yes, that's right. Noise disturbance. And the franchise started going downhill since. And yes, I know the franchise is not on its downfall because it's fine. But honestly, it started going downhill when noise disturbance was added, and the game series started going downhill since. And who asked for it? And this caused a ton of problems for various players at this point. Now, yeah. Next. Moving on, we get to another new customer, the cell phone addict. The cell phone addict talks non-stop. They will talk constantly, causing noise disturbances. Just like the business women, they are impatient, but they are fast to order and eat. And they don't mind the noise from the families, but try not to seat them next to the quiet customers who might get annoyed. The more, if you leave the cell phone addicts longer next to the quiet customers and make them linger longer, the more noise the quiet customers will get upset at. Now, if they get upset too long by the noise, or if they wait too long, they'll get up and ditch right away. So this will cost the player some points. Now let's move on to another customer type, the bookworm. Bookworms are slow and sensitive customers. They are slow to order and eat, but they're very patient. But be careful though, because they like things very quiet. So if they get seated next to noisy customers, they lose one whole heart. unlike 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 the other customers which would lose 1.5 heart if they get disturbed by the noise. And we got the joggers. Joggers are well-rounded exercisers that wears headphones, making them immune to noise. So they don't mind the noise because they always have their headphones on. However, there's one thing we need to know. They will not order dessert, but they do order snacks. Yeah, the reason why the joggers don't order dessert because they are watching their weight. So as a curiosity, a user by the name of Wallace Gaming, says something that you must serve the other customers before serving the joggers first, because the other customers order dessert and not the joggers. So it's very important. If you leave the joggers waiting, if you keep the joggers waiting while they're ready and they're finished eating, and if they linger too long for service, then they'll get upset a little. So take my word for it. In addition to the families being introduced and other such, we get new upgrades. We already know about the high chair, but we also have a mop. If a family spills, bring the mop to their table to clean it up. A dessert station is also introduced as well. A telephone, where you can call an extra staff member for help. However, it can only be used once per shift. And a bench. Sit a customer group that is in line to the bench to make them more patient. You can only seat one group on the bench at a time. Do not worry. The drink station, the podium, and the snack stations are still there. You guys, so I believe you guys already know. Let's look at the restaurants. We start with Darla's Sidewalk Cafe, a lush freezer cafe while the inside is stocked with various supplies used for food and drinks. Tony's Pizzeria Ristorante, an Italian restaurant famous for its pizza. Tony's hearty and delicious food attracts families to have a good meal there. Customers in a good mood will order dessert from that level onwards, as they serve tiramisu. I'm sorry if I pronounced that dessert name wrong. Margarita's Cantina, famous for tacos, brings spice to the Dinertown residents. Snacks are introduced in that restaurant. Then we go to Toshiro's Japanese Grill. Serving authentic Japanese food, Toshiro's Grill is a must-visit from ones who crave for the exotic. Kindly seniors and joggers are introduced here. The bar is also introduced in that restaurant. And then, after succeeding in saving all the 4 restaurants, Flo and the player would not finish yet. They need to check on Mr. Big, and Flo had an idea. The Big Corp Tower was renamed. The Big Corp Tower was renamed Flo's Skylight Lounge. Located at the deck of Big Corp, it provides a good view of Dinertown while serving gourmet food. At Flo's Skylight Lounge, Flo can now handle 4 items at a time, with Mr. Big serving as her assistant waiter. In this case, each customer is valuable because a customer leaving upset causes 1,000 points, and the customers are well dressed. Obviously, Customers leaving upset causes 1,000 ports were already introduced at Toshio's Japanese Grill. So I don't get why PlayFirst didn't say anything about that. Once Restaurant Rescue was finished, we're going through yet another installment, a third installment. Diner Dash 3, Flo on the Go, released in October 2006. Flo and her friend Darla were going on vacation, and they closed their restaurants for a week. The story takes place with Flo and her friend Darla to go on a vacation, and after working hard at their establishments. However, while boarding the cruise ship, Flo's suitcase containing her clothes fell overboard. As the pair eat on the onboard restaurant, a waiter slips, dropping his tray. Flo catches it, and the manager comments, and he says, "She looks like she's handled a tray before." And then Flo explains that she owns a restaurant, and so does Darla. And since the crew is short-handed, the manager asks Flo to work for the ship's crew. In return, the manager offers to refund their tickets, as well as paying them for their services. Using the money from this offer, Flo plans to buy herself some new clothes that replacing the clothes that she lost on the onboard store. The vacation takes a pair through the cruise, riding the rails, exploring the deep, waiting tables in the sky, and into reaches of space. Now let's talk about let's all talk about the new features that Flo on the Go has introduced. First, Flo on the Go would bring more features to the Diner Dash series. Notable inclusions including Flo's closet. That's right. Flo will unlock new pieces of clothing. The clothing goes into Flo's closet, where you can mix and match pieces of clothes onto Flo, and she'll wear them during the next level. The clothes is sorted out in head, shirt, apron, and shoes, and usually applies to the theme of the current restaurant. For example, clothing unlocked in the Rocket is futuristic space bodysuits. And we get secret levels. New to the game and being normal to the series are secret levels. Secret levels are special stages that can only be unlocked if you beat all the levels with expert scores. For all of them, secret levels are designed to be difficult and test the player's ability, like chaining and matching. These levels would have the customers be in mixed groups. Now, speaking of the customers, let's talk about the customer types that were introduced and reintroduced. Young ladies, the families, the businesswomen, cell phone addicts, bookworms, the kindly seniors, and the joggers are still there. We got two new customer types. The tourists. New to the series, they are impatient when at the table and expect fast service. They eat normal and tip higher. Sometimes they will request Flo to take their picture or photo, and often frowned upon because they are capable of breaking chains. So we already know about the tourists. So they carry on the Mr. Hotshot's style or customer engine. The tourists are very patient in line because they are snapping photos of everything. But when seated, they are impatient when seated at the table. So they expect fast service from you and Flo. And we got the lovebirds. New to the series, they are patient and order and eat slowly. If you leave them lingering for too long, they will smooch. In turn, in case causes noise disturbance. Lovebirds will only sit at seat tables for two, so you can't seat them anyplace else. However, we got something new. Prior to Diner Dash 3 Flow on the Go, they got mixed customers. So, from the families, you'll see a father and a son, and sometimes two moms appear, meaning double the high chairs. So you have to keep an eye out for a father and son, a dad and a son, and then you'll be seeing two moms with two babies. You'll see a pairs of moms with babies. So take my word for it. And also, the kindly seniors would sometimes appear with the families. This, marking them as grandparents. Yes. The kindly senior, despite they dislike noise, but they do mind the noise if they appear with the families. That's right. So you get a mix of the customers. You see, with a dad with the young lady, the bookworm with the cell phone addict, and the business women. Just a lot. Just kind of test out. Just kind of test things out. So yeah. So at this moment of which I just, it's just so very interesting, actually. Very interesting. Now, we still have our basic snack station, dessert station. You get the rest. Now we get to the fourth installment of Diner Dash. On September 25th, 2007. Diner Dash 4, Hometown Hero, was introduced. Now the story takes place in Flo's own hometown. Flo returns to her hometown to visit her grandma Florence and spend a vacation with her. They wanted to do the things that they used to do back in the day. They first arrive at the zoo to visit the animals, only to discover that the zoo is to be desolated and void, meaning it's bare bones with no guests and no visitors in particular. It's a zoo ghost town. When Flo and Florence were going to have lunch at the Safari Cafe at the zoo, they see how terrible the service is. When a waiter tells them the zoo is lackluster due to the city hall cutting its funding, Flo and Grandma Florence eventually bring life back to the zoo and rejuvenate it. After drawing a lot of attention for the Safari Cafe at the zoo and bringing in a lot of people at the zoo, Flo and Grandma Florence head to the baseball stadium to watch the big game tonight, only to discover that attendance is poor and service was terrible. At the diner at Home Run Park, attendance and service is lackluster and terrible. Flo resolves to restore the baseball stadium to its original prime again, with Florence's help, of course. Then the next day came. Flo and Grandma Florence head to the museum to enjoy some history, only to find the place to be in poor condition, and Flo was asking, where's her favorite T-Rex? A staff at the museum said, sorry folks, we've been trying to restore the exhibits. Then Florence's guess was lucky. The zoo that had its funding cut. The city cut the museum's funding. No surprise. Wow. No surprise. Then they went to the museum grill. Flo couldn't wait to see what's on display for lunch. She's starving. Only to find that there's only a janitor. The janitor is also the waiter, cook, and curator. Flo and Florence once again restore the museum and bring back some tourists. Then at the end of the museum grill's popularity, Flo and Florence celebrate the day by going down to the amusement park and enjoy a delicious funnel cake for a nice sunset meal. Flo couldn't leave her hometown without having any funnel cake. And then Florence explained to her granddaughter all about her owning a restaurant. It was Florence's Groovy Disco. Oh, yes, Grandma Florence used to own a restaurant of her own. But the problem is that she don't want to talk about it. And she says she wasn't able to run it. The city just turned it into an eyesore of a parking lot. Like everyone say, the parking lot is an eyesore. Wow. By the time when Flo and Grandma Florence got to the boardwalk, the beach shack at the boardwalk, service is lackluster, and yeah, you get the point. The park was in terrible condition, and as Grandma Florence was cleaning up and wiping out a sticky mess on the table, a staff said, "So sorry, we've been trying to fix our fryer, but they just couldn't afford to. Flo has to help again." Yeah, that's right. So Flo wouldn't be leaving town for a while. She has another job first. Wow. She and the player really got work cut out for them. And also an old roller coaster at the amusement park would rumble the whole restaurant, knocking down water glasses. So you gotta be ready for a mop. Yes, I forgot to tell you. From Flo on the Go, to add some much needed life into the restaurant's atmosphere and such, you might run into some water glass spills. So you get turbulence, you get some other disasters, like yeah, you know. So you might be able to run into some spills at restaurants. So yeah, this is probably an attempt to have the players to try and get more points, extra points for cleaning up messes and such. Now back to the story. After Flo and Florence has finished fixing up the beach shack at the boardwalk and the amusement park and the boardwalk themselves, they celebrate the boardwalk having a lot of people. Flo would ride on the old time machine roller coaster. She had to hang on tight, but something that was unexpected. As Flo got into the roller coaster, it pulled her backwards. Flo arrives back in time to find Grandma Florence gone and her disco up and running. When she goes inside, she finds her Grandma Florence now much younger, probably in her 30s, or early 30s, or late 30s, and resolves to help her keep the disco up. We can now see why Grandma Florence couldn't keep her restaurant up and going. It needed some serious help. For starters, the speakers were pretty broken down and couldn't handle bass very well. They will also rumble the whole entire room. Yes, it's very true. But thankfully though, thanks to Flo, Florence's Groovy Disco was still up and running, and it still is from present day by the time when Flo traveled back to the present. As Flo travels back to the present time, she was glad to see Grandma Flo again, only to find her dressing in different clothing. Then Flo discovers that her efforts altered the present, and the disco is still up and running. Flo and Florence head inside and celebrated the disco's anniversary. Diner Dash 4 Hometown Hero features a gourmet edition. Hometown Hero incorporates a special gourmet edition, which is only available online. An online multiplayer versus mode was made available, in which you battle a different player to earn the most money. You can also team up with a player instead. There is bonus downloadable content, including new restaurants, and a style, your own waiter customization, and even making your own restaurant. Your restaurant and waiter can be uploaded to your Play First profile, assuming you have one. Most require a small fee to download. The 15 restaurants that you can purchase in Gourmet Edition would eventually become their own games. We got brand new customer types. The teenagers. Exactly like the cell phone addicts, except being teens. They order and eat moderately. There are two versions of the teenagers, boys and girls. If you see the teen boys next to the teen girls, they'll cease all cell phone disturbance and flirt instead. They don't mind the noise. Because they're noisy. And we have the kindly senior. Except, not the kindly senior that you think. No. That's not the kindly senior from the previous Diner Dash games. We have the female version of the kindly senior. Exactly like the kindly seniors, which are the males from the previous games, only except the kindly seniors in Diner Dash 4 are females. They will appear with families, making them grandparents, which was already introduced from the third installment of Diner Dash anyways. Now, much like the kindly senior males, actually, they are slow to order and eat, and they're very patient, and in line they do their knitting projects. Keep in mind, though, that they will linger for a long time chatting. And take my word for that. Which I'm suggesting they would act like cell phone addicts and be noisy. I'm not sure. But moving on, we get to the hungry men. They eat and order moderately, like the young ladies and families and such. They will always ask for a second meal, and this can complicate your chaining, so it's best to see other moderate customers after they finish their first course. And we got celebrities. They are impatient in line and at the table, but they order and eat through things at a moderate speed. if you seat them next to someone, they will starstruck them, giving them a mood boost and giving you a point bonus. And they tip extremely high. So it's important to keep their mood at a maximum. And Diner Dash 4 marks the first time we seen after previous installments like Diner Dash 2 and 3, the very important Food Critic returns. The Food Critic, a major returning customer from the original Diner Dash series, unlike the Food Critic from Diner Dash 1, they are in color now. Rather than well, you know what I mean. They order slowly but eat moderately. They also tip very high. So it is a good idea to keep their mood at maximum. But you gotta be careful though, because just like the bookworms, they lose one whole heart. So she quickly gets upset when being seated next to noisy customers, just like the bookworms. Yes, it's true. Secret levels and Flo's closet are still there, and there's a versus assistant. At certain restaurants and at certain levels in each restaurant, Flo must hire an assistant who will take over the current restaurant when she and Grandma Florence depart. In these levels, the only goal is to make more money than her assistant. It incorporates a new element of friendly competition into the game instead of always going against the clock. The assailant level of Florence's Groovy Disco got you going against an assailant with a second helper to match Flo and Florence. The secret levels that were introduced are the Safari Cafe Sunday Brunch, Home Run Park Diner and All-Star Game, Tourist Invasion at the Museum Grill, Beach Shack at the Boardwalk Birthday Bash, and Florence's Groovy Disco. Flo's Inferno. Now, the Sunday Brunch features the kindly seniors and teenagers populate that secret level, and is often required to seat the seniors early and the teenagers a little bit later. The All-Star Game at the diner at Home Run Park, everyone in that level is hungry. They will order snacks frequently and dessert if their mood is good enough. The Museum Grill's Tourist Invasion is crawling with tourists, meaning the impatient tourists will have many cameras to snap. The Beach Shack at the Boardwalk's Birthday Bash features mixed families. Everyone will request a snack, and high chairs will frequently be highlighted. And Flo's Inferno, Flo's Groovy Disco, Flo's Inferno. That level is deadly and capable of weathering your spirit if you are not careful. Everyone is impatient, and everyone will order instantly if they are sat down. You need to be faster than you can ever be to survive. Diner Dash 4 would spawn expansions. Yes, Diner Dash 4. Now, Diner Dash 4, their PlayFirst was experimenting a certain type of animation at this point. Throughout. Yes. Starting with seasonal snack pack. I know this is not their attempt to do their smoothie type of animation, but here we go. Before we talk about the smoothie animation experiment, we need to talk about the two installment expansions of Diner Dash 4, starting with Diner Dash Seasonal Snack Pack. The story takes place where Flo and her grandma Florence are reliving their good old days, looking through Florence's scrapbook. Flo missed the days she spent at the Coral Cove water park. first, Flo and Cookie got their days off, and decided to spend the summer there. But Cookie wasn't so sure. And they went to the Coral Cove Cafe at the water park. The service over there was poor, and Flo and Cookie decided to turn the cafe around. After the water park was a success, Cookie went up to the water slide to finally enjoy the summer. Then, Grandma Florence took Flo to the haunted mansion where the Count lives, as she volunteered to help out during the Halloween season. I should say in October of that time. And picked her up in the morning. Flo felt the place gave her the creeps as she enters the mansion, but the Count only be seen in glowing red eyes welcomes her regardless. Then, in one autumn during the Harvest Festival, Grandma Florence was playing football with Flo and Toshiro. Unfortunately, after Florence threw the ball, she threw out her cooking arm. And the guests had arrived. Flo and Toshiro worked together. Toshiro cooked, and Flo waited tables. After the festival was over, Toshiro took care of the leftovers by creating sushi-inspired dishes. Oh, that is so very nice. Then, probably in December, Margarita and Flo visited the ski lodge during the winter holidays. However, they ran into a staff skiing and snowboard race, and the manager was furious that the staff will not be able to work due to the crash. And the manager literally just said, "Look what you've done! How am I going to run my restaurant now?" Margarita and Flo were very sorry. Flo said they're going to fix the damage. Flo will wait tables. Margarita will help with the cooking. Margarita and Flo are left to manage the lodge until all the workers are all recovered. Margarita decides to hit the slopes with Flo again, but Flo decides that they did enough damage for one vacation. And I don't know. It's not in, I don't think it was in December, but if it was, I just don't know. Lastly, Quinn, a friend of Flo's, found a rundown cafe that used to be a romantic spot in Dinahtown, where Grandma Florence used to meet Flo's grandfather. They decided to put the cafe back to business. The expansion would continue with another installment called Diner Dash Flow Through Time, an expansion pack for Diner Dash 4 Hometown Shiro. It would get published by PlayFirst and Big Fish Games in 2008. You need to help Flo and Grandma Florence to go back in their diner as they are traveling through times. So, let's see. Let's talk about the gameplay. There are new types of customers. The new types of customers are actually your regular customers in disguise. So, yeah. Let's talk about the new types of customers. The cavemen. Similar to the cell phone addict named Colin, they will instantly make noise that will annoy other customers nearby. The Egyptian ladies. They're basically your basic young ladies. The visor. Your basic food critics. The knight. Basically they're probably businessmen and they're probably businesswomen in disguised costume. But they're actually a businessman. They're businessmen actually. But honestly, they're just the businesswomen in disguise. The pirate ladies. they're just basically the young ladies. And you get a pirate, which is a celebrity. However, you gotta be careful though, because the pirate, they can help you. They'll starstruck nearby customers, giving you a starstruck bonus. But unfortunately, if they have 2 hearts and below, they will become noisy. They don't care about noise at this point. So watch out. You got your Royal Navy, which is the very hungry men. The Rocket Seniors, which is your basic male seniors, which marks as the male seniors made the return. But sadly, they won't count. They're just basically the kindly senior female seniors in disguise. Yes, all this is true. And finally, we get to Diner Dash, Once Upon a Diner. Grandma Florence rushes to Flo's diner to tell Flo herself about she got a magic lamp from the flea market. Flo asks her grandmother that magic isn't real, but suddenly Grandma Florence slipped from the wet floor onto the table that Bernie the bookworm is sitting in, drinking something in the magic lamp, resulting in him, Flo, and Grandma Florence being sent into the book Bernie was reading. So they're in Bernie's storybook. Let's talk about the restaurants that were featured. They were based on popular fairy tales, from Aladdin, Alice in Wonderland, Jack and the Beanstalk, Cinderella, and The Wizard of Oz. Obviously, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. Oh my goodness. How? And yes, Diner Dash 4.3 Once Upon a Diner features slightly new type of animation style. So you get an example. If you try and let's see for an example. Diner Dash 4.3 Once Upon a Diner features a new type of experimental, more smoother animation. So you'll be seeing the bookworm. So you'll be seeing. So if you serve a drink to a customer, or unless if it's a new customer and such, you'll see if you watch Wallace's game series about Diner Dash, Once Upon a Diner, with a link in the description below this video. For starters, in Once Upon a Diner, we have restaurants. We already know they're based off of popular fairy tales. We got 1001 Bits, which is from Aladdin. This is where Genie Grandma Florence tells Flo and Bernie that they need to buy a mirror and return home. But the price of it is very expensive. So Flo tells Bernie that they'll do what they do best in order to make money. Once Flo and Bernie finally made enough money, they will go through the Looking Glass mirror and end up in not Dinertown, but Wonderland. And once Bernie and Flo arrived in Wonderland, Mad Hatter Florence invites them both to a tea party. Flo asks how can she and Bernie get home. Hatter Florence says a magic bean should do the trick. Just as Flo was about to grab the bean, the evil Queen of Hearts catches her and wants her executed as soon as the tea party is over. Then Flo tried to ask if there's another option, and the Queen said she could try selling Flo the bean, though it's very expensive. Hatter Florence then says that she could use some help serving customers at the tea party, as it's been dragging for a long time. Once Flo and Bernie obtain the bean, Hatter Florence tells Flo to plop the bean in her mouth. Just before she was about to, the evil queen accidentally trips onto Flo, making her drop the bean. The bean then proceeded to grow into a beanstalk, and both Flo and Bernie gets lifted into the clouds. And this is where we get to the introduction of Fee-Fi Flo Fun. What is this? Flo and Bernie end up at Giant Florence's house, and she settles them for cookies and coffee. Flo asked Florence how they could get back to Diner Town. Giant Florence says a magic wand should do the trick, but it's very expensive. Flo and Bernie don't know how to make money all the way in the clouds, but Giant Florence recommends to open a restaurant in her house. After making enough money, they were able to purchase a magic wand. But before that, Flo asked how many people could possibly come up all the way up to the clouds, as a bunch of people starting arriving for food. Then both her and Bernie decided to get to work. After making enough money, Flo and Bernie get a wand and wave it around as Giant Florence tells them to. But they ended up outside of a castle and still not Diner Town. And Bernie just said, This is not Diner Town. Definitely. And Bernie's right. Definitely not Diner Town. They ended up in the Dash Slipper, Cinderella. A carriage rolls next to Flo and Bernie. Fairy godmother Florence tells them they'll be late for the ball and they need to hop on the carriage. But Flo's tell godmother Florence that she and Bernie need to return to Diner Town. The godmother Florence says a magic bubble should do the trick. But they are, we know, very expensive. Flo and Bernie get straight to work at the ball. Just as Flo and Bernie finished, the clock struck 12, and Godmother Florence sends them in her magic bubble. Bernie sees Diner Town, but right there they can make it, a tornado catches them and got stuck in Kansas? Once Flo and Bernie land, they met a scarecrow, a lion, and Fairy Florence. Flo asked them how they can get home, and the lion says they should speak to the wizard, Cookie, but the scarecrow stops them. He says no one should see the wizard without a gift. But what kind of gift should Flo and Bernie get him? And guess what? What Fairy Florence just said. Pants. Seriously? And just as always, that they are very expensive. We get it. We all get the blueprint message. There's Munchkin Lunchkin. Yes, that's another restaurant. Another restaurant. And there's a Munchkin Feast nearby, so Flo and Bernie headed off. Flo and Bernie finally bought the wizard Cookie's new pants and arrives at his castle. Wizard Cookie tells them they could get back home with the magic lamp they had the entire time. Bernie should have saw that one coming. And so they head back to Diner Town. With the help of the magic lamp, Flo and Bernie returned to Flo's diner. Flo was so relieved that she and Bernie are back, but Grandma Florence says they never left. Flo and Bernie are still confused, but Flo gets back to mopping, and Bernie goes back into reading his storybook, and the scene ends with Grandma Florence hiding the magic wand behind her back. Oh my gosh. Different customer types were introduced. We see the bookworms as magicians, royal card guards, royal attendants, and tin men. We also see other customers in disguised costumes. We get the Queen of Hearts, which are actually businesswomen in disguise, the Prince as a celebrity, and Royal Harpers, and other sorts. Now let's talk about some of the remakes of Diner Dash. In 2007, Diner Dash Sizzle and Serve was introduced, which cobbled bits and pieces from Diner Dash 1 and Diner Dash 2. It was released in 2007 for the PlayStation Portable and the Nintendo DS. The PlayStation Portable version was the best version, and unlike the DS version of the game. No offense, but the DS version kind of sucked because for number one, the only major criticism we have about the DS version is that they only served one food course meal, which was pizza. Nothing else. There are also differences. There are 6 restaurants in total instead of 5 over there. Graphics were redrawn for characters and levels. Now let's talk about who made that game for the DS and the PlayStation P. Meet Climax, who was the same developer behind Hot Wheels Stunt Track Challenge and World Race, and became Black Rock Studios. Game Lab, who was the main developer behind what else? Diner Dash Classic, and also Play First themselves. That's right. A Game Boy Advance port was announced, but unfortunately it was cancelled, being rejected for only two handhelds, the DS and the PlayStation Portable. Restaurants were introduced. Several restaurants were changed. Graphics were redrawn for characters and levels, and music was changed. The main track was remixed, and new tracks were added for each stage, unlike the original game, which had 2 tracks for all restaurants. Such as Flo's Mexican having Mexican music and Indian restaurant having a piece of Indian-themed music. Diners were changed drastically. 2 have been replaced. Flo's Tiki Palace got replaced with Flo's Mexican, and Chez Flo was replaced with Retro. Players had the ability to choose what kind of upgrades they want to have for the diners, unlike the original game, which had fixed automated upgrades. Then, the counter table contains 6 seats instead of 8. The podium only works on 4 to 5 customers, while everyone else in line gets impatient. There's also competitive multiplayer mode and more customer types. Speaking of, we still get your regular customers from the PC version of the game. Alongside with the ones that were introduced in Restaurant Rescue, and such, including the returning customer. We have the young ladies, the very important food critic, the families, businesswomen, and cell phone addicts, the jogger, and the seniors. And we got the college students returning. That's right, the college kids made their grand return. Except the contest has changed for them. They are now slow to order and eat impatient. Or if it still carries the same engine trajectory as the college kids on the main version of Diner Dash 1, then I might be wrong then. So, yeah. In 2009, Play First had Hudson Soft develop a remake of the 2003 video game of the same name, Diner Dash 1, for the PlayStation 3, Xbox, and Nintendo Wii. Unlike the original game, and despite following a similar art style, instead of using 2D sprites, it is now completely remade in 3D graphics, featuring a new co-op and multiplayer modes. The character and diner designs are mostly the same, but remade in 3D. And we still have your favorite restaurants from the original game, like Flo's Diner, Flo's Tiki Palace. Go with the flow. Chez Flo's and Vishnu's Garden Cafe. Though it actually in reality was previously known as Indian Restaurant. Not bad. In 2010, and the original Diner Dash has, in 2010, and a remake of the game of the same name was developed by PlayFirst and was released in 2010 exclusively for the iPhone and iPod Touch. And it would be getting an art style based off of the new Diner Dash game, which would be introduced in that year. Yes, in 2010. In 2010, PlayFirst decided it's time to upgrade the art style. So PlayFirst has redrawn all the customers' art styles to a new art style look, which was very questionable and such. And this is where we get to the introduction of Diner Dash 5 Boom on February 16th, 2010. And a fifth installment of the Diner Dash series. The story takes place at midnight. A mysterious person arrives at Flo's Diner and scrubs off the fat off of Flo's fat-free breakfast promotion banner. The next morning, Flo and Cookie arrive to open the diner, only to dodge a massive tsunami of customers. When Flo and Cookie see that the promotion reads free breakfast, Mr. Big arrives at the remains of the destroyed Flo's Diner and declares that he will buy the land out if Flo can't rebuild her diner within a week. This didn't please a hungry man very well. Hal, the very hungry man, promises Flo that he will help to rebuild the diner if she can't find his handyman. So Flo and Cookie set off. But Cookie just said, "Flo, it is still impossible. How can we serve when there is no diner?" Flo suggested if people can't come here to the food, then they'll just have to bring food. They'll just have to bring the food to the people. And they certainly done that. Starting with Avenue Flo. Flo and Cookie serve as many customers and townies to fund Hal's rebuilding of the diner. After successfully conquering weather mishaps and a broken hydrant, Flo and Cookie get the word from Hal that more of his handymen are in Squid Row's carnival. Flo and Cookie arrive to serve Squid Row's nearest customers, clowns, and find Hal's handyman after completing their shifts in Squid Row. Flo and Cookie set off to Times Square for the parade, where more of Hal's men are. Flo and Cookie come to Times Square during the nighttime hours and serve the people of the parade. Flo and Cookie complete their time in Times Square, and Hal informs that more of his handymen are at Dinertown U for the big game. Flo and Cookie come to collect Hal's handyman at the university grounds, but are almost stopped by a trio of Mr. Big's lawyers. When Flo and Cookie outsmart them with Grandma Florence's help, Flo agrees to serve the lawyers. As they finish at the university, Hal tells them that Flo's Diner is finally complete. Thankfully, everyone at Dinertown is at the diner to celebrate the grand reopening, but Mr. Big was appalled and was outraged that they managed to do it so quickly and put his backup plan into motion. By pressing a switch, Mr. Big springs out a large marketing advertising campaign for Flo's Diner, attempting to rope customers to destroy the diner again, but it didn't go well. Flo and Cookie serve the customers and are enjoyed by the success. Watching the TV, Flo and Cookie laugh as they see a malfunction at Big Corp, which causes a sign to say free money. Hordes of people run into Big Corp, causing it to explode. Somehow kind of resembling to the 9/11 attack, I suppose? I don't know. This caused Mr. Big to scream, saying, "No." With Flo's Diner destroyed during the beginning of the game, Flo and Cookie set up their first location on their home turf. We already have a lot of neighborhoods. Avenue and Flo, Square Row, Times Square, Dinertown U, Flo's Rebuild Diner. You get it. Now, let's look at the customers. We got your returning favorites. The young ladies, the hungry men, business women, seniors, the male version. Actually, the tourists, celebrity, bookworms, the joggers, the lovebirds, and the cell phone addicts. The families, the kindly female seniors, and the teenagers were taken off the lineup. We're taking off the customer lineup. Yes, the very important food critic as well. Yay for the food critic and the families, but nay for the other customers. As a curiosity, the families were intended to come back to Diner Dash, actually. The families were supposed to come back to Diner Dash 5 Boom, according to the fandom. There was a concept of the families being redrawn into the new art style. A concept art of Kingston the kid and Maggie the mom and Duncan the dad has been made and was seen on the Diner Dash fandom, the Dash Wiki. However, unfortunately, the families were cut from production and were replaced by new customers. Yeah, the families were eliminated. Let's get to the new customer types in Diner Dash 5 Boom. We get the hospital worker. Young, moderate, and patient. They're basically the male version of the young ladies. The clowns. Clowns who eat and tip and order at a moderate speed. They will start juggling and hypnotize nearby customers, causing them to slow down. Simply bring Flo over to them so they will stop. The lawyers. Just like businesswomen and cell phone addicts, they are impatient and orders fast, and they tip very high if they are happy enough. If you see two groups of lawyers next to each other, they will begin to argue and causing noise disturbance. Other lawyers don't mind the noise because they are very noisy and shouting. Yeah. It's a lawyer lingo out there. And we get the librarians. They are patient and tip well. They order moderately and they will shush nearby noisy customers. Useful is you seat them near customers who will cause noise disturbance. Yeah, you get all this. Everything was changed dramatically. Yeah, everything has changed dramatically. The young ladies, a perfectly balanced customer. They wear flowers on their heads. The hungry man eats fast and will order a second meal. They still tip moderate and is nicely patient. The businesswomen, they are so impatient and tip very high, but eats fast and orders fast too. And they wear headbands. The seniors. You still have your basic male seniors that they order and eat very slowly and they tip lowly and is very patient. Their hair is now crooked a tiny bit in Diner Dash 5 Boom. The tourist, you still get your basic tourists. However, they changed as well. They are much older and they now wear hats on their heads. The celebrity, they are still the same. However, they now wear golden necklaces. Interesting. The bookworm, they appear much older, but they still patient and orders and eats slowly and tips moderately, but still the same. Yeah, things are just basically the same. Things are just basically the same with the bookworms. Break one full heart if they get seated next to noisy customers. And the joggers, aka the fitness fanatic, they wear different jackets. The lovebirds, they're still the same. However, they now wear sunglasses. And lastly, the cell phone addict. They're still the same. However, they change. They no longer have their eyes permanently closed when happy. That's right. Yeah, PlayFirst just took out some of the major flaws and made some some changes here and there. Now let's look at the later Diner Dash series. Diner Dash Growing Green. Yes, that's another 2010 game. And it's a direct sequel to Diner Dash 4 Hometown Hero and a prequel to 5 Boom. Unlike Diner Dash Sizzle and Serve 2007, Diner Dash Classic 2008, and Diner Dash 2009, the game was removed. The game was removed from the iTunes App Store and Google Play following the release of the 2014 reboot. The game's sprites and sound effects and the entire style are based on Diner Dash 5 Boom, and the gameplay is still generally the same as Diner Dash and Diner Dash Classic, with some additional features. Now, customers will have a requested food type which appears in a speech bubble above them. Players can merge orders if they're of the same food type, so Grandma Florence can speed up the process. Players can also help speed up the cooking with Grandma Florence by using the Cooker 3000. There are only 2 restaurants in the game, Flo's Diner and Toshiro's Japanese Grill, which they returned. There are also just 4 customer types: Rosie the Regular, which is the young ladies, Bard the businesswoman, Seymour the senior, and Duncan the dad. The dad makes his reappearance since Diner Dash 4's expansion and the main Diner Dash 4 game. In 2011, Diner Dash on Facebook was introduced and was once again developed by PlayFirst and was published by PlayFirst and Facebook app. The basic premise of Diner Dash on Facebook follows Flo and her continuous battle against the evil Mr. Big. Mr. Big has polluted the Dinertown Park, forcing most restaurants to close. The players must help Flo take on Mr. Big and use their tips earned in the restaurants to fix the park, allowing other restaurants to be unlocked. The gameplay follows a similar traditional gameplay of the other Diner Dash games in the series and uses the graphical art style as Diner Dash 5 Boom and features a bunch of well-known diners from Diner Dash and Diner Dash 2 Restaurant Rescue. Ooh. Yeah, I think we know the customer types at this point. Then we get to Diner Dash Classic 2012. It was developed by PlayFirst and was published with PlayFirst and by Glue Games Inc. The deluxe version only. Despite there not being a huge focus on plot, lack of comics, it is generally the same plot premise as Diner Dash. the new character sprites with a new art style based off of Diner Dash 5 and other such on the differences were introduced. The trivia, I forgot to tell you that Duncan the Dad, who is from the families, replaced the Mr. Hotshot, and Leo the Lovebird replaces the college kid. What a surprise. Yeah, so Mr. Hotshot or the college kids didn't make their grand return, sadly. So, yeah, no plot line. We still have all the restaurants. We got only one free restaurant, Flo's Diner. And we also got a starter pack, a date night pack, an exotic eats pack. You get it. I mean, you get some of the restaurants from Diner Dash Classic, like Flo's Diner, Flo's Tiki Palace, Go With The Flow, and Shed's Flows, and Mystic Palace. It's probably new. And also you get Skylight Lounge. Wow, cannot believe it. And also you get your basic customers like Rosie the Regular and Barb the Businesswoman and Bernie the Bookworm. But also you get the Summer Girls, Glampire, Tween Wolf, and the Food Critic makes her return again. How many? Seriously, what's going on here? In 2013, Diner Dash Rush was introduced. PlayFirst developed it first, and then Glu Mobile published it. The premise: Flo's back in the fastest Diner Dash game ever, and the lunch rush has hit. Help Flo swiftly seat, serve, and satisfy as many hungry customers as possible before time runs out. Complete with Facebook or Game Center friends. Earn special bonuses by collecting flair from VIP customers and use powerful boosts to send your score rushing to the top in weekly tournaments. Not good. You still get your customer types from the previous Diner Dash games onwards, like the young ladies, the business women, and the bookworms. And the college student makes a return. Or I don't know. Oh wait, no. This is a student, the basic student, which appeared in Cooking Dash, which we'll definitely cover in a future video. Oh, and another new customer, Grandpa Norbert, who appeared in Wedding Dash, Avenue and Flow. That's it. Now moving on, we get to the 2014 reboot, Diner Dash 2014. Oh my gosh. PlayFirst developed the reboot first. Glu Mobile published it then. Diner Dash 2014, or referred to as Diner Dash X, is a 2014 time management video game. It's supposed to be a soft reboot of the original Diner Dash. And the story is still... let's talk about the story. The story for the 2014 Diner Dash is very irrelevant to the story from the original game. It concerns with the iconic character Flo and her chef partner Cookie, managing to protect each restaurant from negative destruction and feedback of Mr. Big. The first arc of the story reveals that the real Mr. Big is held captive by his younger brother, Lil Big, who was primarily the minor villain and the antagonist. The second arc goes on with the real Mr. Big villain. It is the identical gameplay as the original Diner Dash game, additional to the mixture of the touch and drag and drop gameplay with the 2012 reboot. Despite its similarity, the game features a new cast of customers and VIPs, outrageously diverting challenges, brand new restaurants for payment, and disappointingly interruptible functions. X spills, rocket, health inspector, etc. Now let's talk about the customers. Let's look at the returning customers. The young ladies, the business women, and the bookworms are still there, alongside with Grandpa Norbert. However, we also got a returning customer from the family group from Diner Dash 2, and other Diner Dash installment predecessor onwards, Kingston the Kid. Yes, Kingston the Kid. Remember, he was from Diner Dash 2 Restaurant Rescue and other Diner Dash games. Until then, after his last appearance in one of the Diner Dash 4 installments, he was found on snap from existence. But he returned once again for the 2014 reboot. New customers were introduced. Shakes McGee, Skip, Henry, Maddie, Flynn, Hogo First, Ariel, Violeta, Tiara, Claus, and Agora, alongside with VIP customers. And also we also have new restaurants, unlike the first game. Unlike the original game. Greasy Spoon, Deep Sea Diner, Rocket Diner, Le Gordon Bleu, Taco Grande, Candy Carnival, Grill and Chili. Could it be worse? Yeah. Now, the game was removed and was delisted from the App Store and Google Play, despite the game receiving more than 10 million downloads on the Google Play Store. Much of the reasons why for the reboot to exist is to try and capture a new generation. And I understand that, but I don't know if it's going to. I don't know why. And also the old generation of the original Diner Dash was either appalled or didn't mind. If it's a soft reboot, they understand. But if it's not as true as the original, then they hate it and won't get it altogether. But then again, it's fine. It's fine. Then we get to Diner Dash Adventures, also known as Diner Dash Town, a freemium time management and town design game. And it was developed by Glue Play. Hey, what's that you say? It's supposed to be published by Play First, not Glue Play. What happened to Play First? Well, it's been sold to EA. Oops. Play First is now ultimately owned by a fellow publisher who published Need for Speed, even The Sims and other sorts. Okay, yeah, wow. So, as of right now, it's still owned by EA to this very day. So, I'm not going to go through this. I'm just going to go through this story, and I'm just going to go through just all the customers at this point. Let's talk about the story. Flo returns to hometown after starting on the popular television show Cooking Dash. However, she is shocked to find her beloved home in a bad way. After meeting with a distressed Cookie, she teams up with him to repair the greasy spoon. She then goes around town to restore its venues, while helping old and new friends along the way. Meanwhile, Mr. Big and his goons try their hardest to hinder Flo's progress from the shadows, but failed miserably. So far, Diner Dash Adventures contains gameplay elements from both the original Diner Dash and spin-off game Hotel Dash for various venues. All venues have different upgrades and gimmicks of their own. We got your turning character favorites like the Rosie, Barb, Kingston, Nobert, Shakes McGee, Bernie, Gordon, Quinn, Lilworth, and Hal. But also some new character types: Queenie, Princess, Gladius, Dorbert, Gil, Minnie, Max, Piper Lee, Alberta, Kitty the Catfish, Flip, Mrs. Stinkerbell, Beatrix, Devin Ari, Fairly Hart, Vera Big, Granbert, and the Fox. Alright. Very alright. So I'm just wow. I'm literally lost for words. I can't even describe it. Diner Dash spawned different versions. For starters, we got the Flash version of Diner Dash, which is a demo version of Diner Dash 4 Hometown Hero, running on the now obsolete Flash player. That's right. So, and it's very different. And you can also play Diner Dash emulated on Crazy Games. There are also versions of Diner Dash on Glue Mobile, Diner Dash Classic on Glue Mobile, Diner Dash 2 on Glue Mobile, Diner Dash 3 on Glue Mobile, or Diner Dash 3 on the DS version. That's right. So in the end, despite Diner Dash going on its downfall, the game is perfect in its early days before it went on its downfall. Despite the game wasn't on its downfall, the game series just went on its downfall when Noise Disturbance was added, and it was a very big irritation because it not only causes irritation to some players, but it also causes some trouble for certain people who cannot get past certain levels. But Noise Disturbance was supposed to be a new feature for the Diner Dash series, and it's supposed to add some life into the game, actually. And Noise Disturbance is one of them, because Noise Disturbance is supposed to be for irritating other customers when they get seated next to noisy customers, actually. Noise Disturbance would later get ported over to the Diner Dash spin-off, Cooking Dash, which some people really despised having it being added. But it's supposed to have much needed life into the game, and besides that, there's nothing wrong with trying something new. But there's only one problem. Some people has opinions, and either it will cause Diner Dash to die or not. So it's pretty understandable. So in the end, Diner Dash is an almost perfect game, though, despite its major flaws. But it's just so great, and it's also very nostalgic and memorable. Diner Dash was able to impress a lot of people, and it still be played to this very day, thanks to Tough Gaming Guy and everyone else, including Wallace Gaming. So what if Play First? What remained of Play First? Play First in 2014 was acquired by Glue Mobile. The official statement from Glue Mobile CEO read, "We are pleased to officially add Play First to the Glue family, and looking forward to delivering new Dash products to a worldwide audience." But what happened to Play First now? Clever guess. It's still under Glue Mobile, but EA now owns Play First. Yeah, Play First is now owned by EA, or Electronic Arts, which, while Play First is still under the parent company, Glue Mobile. What about the website of Play First? Gone. It's not there anymore. Even if you try and click a link on the Wikipedia page, it's not available. Diner Dash Classic celebrated its 20th anniversary in honor of the game's 20th anniversary last year. And I thought The Simpsons and Ron is supposed to celebrate its 20th anniversary too. I forgot to support Diner Dash, since I played Diner Dash. But unfortunately, I don't have the game because it won't work on my computer because due to the fact that it needs to be it has to work on a compatibility operating system. But after discovering you can play old games with a compatibility option, it's clear this wasn't the case. Anyway, what happened to Play First right now, we don't know. But the studio has since gone quiet. It hadn't published anything, absolutely anything. So I'm suspecting that Play First should be limiting to doors after what happened to Maxis in the later years, unceremoniously. Thank you guys all for watching. And until next time, what will happen next? I love Set the Trolleys. Goodbye, everyone.